You are listening to an Art Media podcast.
Jonathan, what's your number this week?
It's 12.4. That is the pace of growth of the Israeli economy in Q3. If it were annualized, so that's like twice the Chinese pace of growth annually, showing that Israel rebounded completely and then some after the horrible Q2, which had the 12-day war and halted the entire market. So very, very good indication that the year will end at 3.6, maybe even 3.7 growth, which would be remarkable.
My number is 19 because on the 19th of November on this month, NVIDIA is going to report its next quarterly earnings. And as we know, there's so much that's hinging on these numbers right now. Every word that Jensen Huang, the CEO, utters, people are looking to see what's going on with this AI bubble or wobble, as we talked about last week. So all eyes on them. It's really, I was thinking it's just become like the new Cisco, where if you remember back in the day, everything would hinge on Cisco, the plumbing of the internet and what are the numbers looking like with them. So that's my number. Who wins?
Honestly, I like your number because it also will impact a lot. Israel. Last week, we spoke about how Israel's not that dependent and has its leeway there. But if NVIDIA scales back, then that's going to impact also Israel. So for looking ahead, I think the 19th would be the important number. But for kind of looking back, taking a deep breath and maybe patting ourselves on the back, which we should do from time to time, I stick to my number.
I'll give it to you. You win. All right. It is close to 11 a.m. here in Palo Alto.
It is now 9 p.m. in Israel.
We've got a really consequential visit to the White House this week. We're recording on a Monday. I believe MBS arrives with his 1,000-person entourage, by the way.
Oh, that's a real number?
On Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
That's what I read.
That's the number of the week. There's your number of the week.
1,000. So again, very consequential when it comes to Israel in a number of ways. But one thing that I know a lot of attention has been spent on is this defense pact and the potential sale of the F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia. Obviously, a step that Saudis are very eager to take with the U.S., but I've been reading a lot about some of the potential implications to Israel. And what are your thoughts? Because there are pros and cons here, obviously.
There are three letters our listeners should be familiar with, which are QME. That is a congressional authority for the Israel's qualitative military edge. It's a commitment by the U.S. Congress to make sure that as weapons are sold to countries in the Middle East, there is an edge that remains for Israeli technology, or at the very least for Israel to weave in its own technological stack into American weaponry. That has been the case in recent decades. That is why the second largest F-15 squadron in the world is not in Israel, outside of the U.S. It is actually in Saudi Arabia. So the fuselage, the engine, the systems, I don't think we need to be that worried as long as the QME is preserved. It is Turkey that we need to be worried about because Turkey does not have a QME. It's not part of the QME. So the U.S. can sell without Congress approval very advanced weapon systems to Turkey, as it is a NATO member. And I think another piece here vis-a-vis the Saudi pact is actually the fact that if everything works well, and if the White House manages to tie the deal of the century, right, then Turkey will get some, Saudi will get some, and Israel will be able to, carve its path to normalization, which, as we discussed in previous episodes, will allow for India to step in, for Indonesia to step in, and really to carve out an incredible economic route for Israel's, coming decade or two. Well, I will say one sort of thing that dovetails here, and Prime Minister Netanyahu, in a recent interview to Erin Molan, gave actually for the first time an on-record comment on the next decade of American-Israeli military aid. So this is a big number. It's about $4 billion a year for a decade, so $40 billion. This has become a topic of immense diatribe on the American left and right. The sort of MAGA or America First group is like, why are we supporting Israel with $4 billion? We can focus on that topic in another episode, but Netanyahu has actually made a formal comment saying, I intend to wean Israel from the aid. Israel is a $600 billion economy. This $4 billion aid is important, but it's not that important. We want to keep the partnership. We want to keep the interwoven nature of our defense administrations, but it doesn't have to be via aid. So really, as a friend of mine, Dr. Kobi Barda, who has his PhD is on Christian Zionists, likes to say, this is the eve of the Balfour Declaration that would impact the 21st century. And I tend to agree that the dynamics are really of historic consequence.
Yes. And to be clear, before we move on, I am very concerned about the U.S.-Israel relationship, not anytime soon, but kind of extrapolating, future administrations. Who knows where it's going? But that's part of the reason why I am feeling more and more optimistic about some of the new relationships that Israel is forming as well. Not to say that the U.S. one isn't the most important and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. Okay. We've got a great long play to get to shortly here. Today, we're talking to Yevgeny Dibrov. He's the co-founder and CEO of cyber company Armis, which just raised a $435 million pre-IPO funding round at a valuation of $6.1 billion. That 0.1 is very important, apparently. I think beyond $6 billion, it's all the same. But anyways, Yevgeny worked with the Wiz team at their first company, Adallom. So he's been in cyber for a while. That company was bought by Microsoft, and he then went on to start Armis about 10 years ago. Today, it is one of the most promising and most highly valued of the Israeli-founded cyber startups. And we're going to talk to him about kind of the state of the entire ecosystem, and also ask him why more companies in the space and more Israeli companies in the space don't make it all the way to an IPO. They haven't yet, of course, but that is their path.
Yeah, I think Yevgeny is interesting, and Armis is specifically interesting for two main reasons. First of all, his personal story, right? Coming from Dnipropetrovsk in Ukraine, making Aliyah to the Yemenite neighborhood of Sha'araim, near Rehovot, near the Weizmann Institute, which is actually known for Israeli singer Eyal Golan and the football team that belongs to the Yemenite neighborhood. And he's very bullish on his path in Israeli mobility. I think the second piece is the beauty, and we spoke about that before, and I think, to our listeners, this is very indicative of multiple-time entrepreneurs in Israel, right? Comes out there, builds with Adallom. The Adallom, which, by the way, is a cool name to those of you who don't know. Adallom in Hebrew is this far. It's kind of a red line. And there's a junction in Israel called Adallom, which is where the Egyptian army stopped and was kind of pushed back in the War of Independence. So the name Adallom carries a big kind of ethical value. But this gang is kind of like the PayPal gang, right, in Silicon Valley. And beyond being a second or third time, even someone would say entrepreneur with Armis, he's also an investor. He's had, incredible kind of payback to the industry. Him and yet Nadir, his partner, are known in the industry, in the ecosystem, for being those who kind of give back. So it's not just that we get to talk to a person at the really forefront of cyber. It's a very, unique and interesting character within the Israeli ecosystem.
Well, we're going to get to the interview in just a minute, but before we do that, let's get the latest update on the Wyndex, the What's Your Number index that tracks the performance of publicly traded Israeli-based or founded companies. On to this week's Wyndex numbers. Yonatan, how are things looking?
So Wyndex is in the red this week, but it actually outperforms one of its peers. So shedding 1.53%, beating the NASDAQ. I mean, it's still a bloodbath around tech in general in Wall Street these days, by almost 0.5%. But fell below the S&P by 0.77%. So beating the NASDAQ, losing to the S&P, a good place to be in.
You're always so optimistic.
And, it's been a headwind week in Wall Street in general, but we saw a couple of the Wyndex companies shoot double-digit growth. Pluristem, if you remember from last week, the carrot protein drug development company, is seeing another double-digit growth, 17.5% growth. Another notable climb is our joiner from 2025, E-Toro, which grew 16 and 11, almost 11% over this week. The company enjoyed a great IPO, but then lost 30% of its IPO. So that it is now about 30% below its IPO price. Announced great results, plus $150 million share buyback, which is very unusual for a company within the first year of its IPO. But, it exudes confidence in the share and it being underpriced in the market. So kudos for that team.
I think all their Premier League ads are working. I don't know if you've noticed, like every Premier League game that's been on, it's E-Toro in the background. So good for them.
By the way, Elon Musk tweeted a couple of days ago that Twitter money is coming. It has been rumored, and a bit more than rumored, that for Twitter money, the backbone would be one of the systems that eToro built. So maybe that's sort of another thing coming forward. This is also true for Yevgeny that we're going to talk to, but the team at eToro has been so tenacious and they have so much grit. So keep an eye on what's happening there. Another Wyndex joiner, Via, fell below its IPO price. So again, it had a good couple of months in the beginning, but lost 13.5% last week. I read the reports and some of the analysts' thought process there. Revenue is growing. It's actually a good report, but it is very, very tough to indicate where it's going. When it comes to mobility and AI, a very, very challenging space. If you kind of see the strength of Waymo in Alphabet's recent report, it's absolutely crazy. The growth continues. They're approaching 1 million drives a month in some of their leading cities, broadening the designated area of the drive.
They're going on freeways now, which I'm very excited about.
One of the least covered stories is the Waymo growth, as it hides there behind, the $150 billion top line per quarter. But it's a story of AI and robotics together with the human condition, with a very strong and compelling unit economics. I think it's hidden there in the reports, but it actually is a great story to try and unravel. It's sort of beyond the scope of What's Your Number, but sort of for our listeners, that is one of the most important, I would say, markers as to where the industry is going when it comes to autonomous driving, transportation, mobility in general. The more Waymo continues to grow and analysts in Wall Street can kind of deduce the real numbers from the big report, we're going to have a good eyesight and line of sight into where this is going.
Yeah, right now, Waymo is still kind of wrapped up in Alphabet's Other Bets revenue, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I would assume that at some point in the near future, there's more and more pressure on them to disclose more and more because, you do see while Waymo is leaps and bounds ahead of the competition here in the US, you do see, the continued viability, hopefully, of what Elon Musk is doing, and some of the other competitors as they start to launch more and more. So hopefully, we'll get more numbers soon.
Yeah, look, I think as you broaden the scope beyond Israel, of course, there's what I always refer to as the marks, right? The material science part, the AI, the robotics, quantum, space, and synthetic biology. I think that when you look at robotics, and it's, again, Elon Musk battling his robot humanoid with Figure 3 already in the US, with Unitree in China. Autonomous cars are a form of robotics, right? At the end of the day, they're a very strong mix of high velocity AI and robotics together. And so I think you're totally right. I mean, we should also look at what's happening in China. A close colleague of mine came back from China last week. And I think this is echoed recently by many people who haven't been for 3 or 4 years and have gone back. It's like visiting the future at this point.
Real life Transformers are not far off, Yonatan.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
I don't know if it's Transformers or Skynet, remember, with the hand in, yeah.
Well, for now, let's just stick with cyber. We're going to move on to our conversation with Yevgeny next. We're going to move on to our long play, and today we're speaking with Yevgeny Dibrov, the co-founder and CEO of cybersecurity startup Armis, which recently raised a $435 million funding round. Yevgeny, welcome to What's Your Number?
Thank you. Great to be here.
Good to have you. I want to hear just kind of the pitch for Armis. There are so many cyber tools out there. There are so many Israeli-made cyber tools out there. And there were 10 years ago when you started as well. So what was the gap, the need that you saw out there in the market that prompted you to start Armis?
Yeah, so when we started Armis, basically myself and Nadir Israel, my co-founder and our CTO, it was after a lot of conversations with CISOs, CIOs, IT managers, plant engineers about their gaps and issues that they were seeing. And really all the questions we were asking them about their biggest pains was really about, again, explosion of connected devices and connected assets. The reality that on one hand, I used to have laptops and servers, and now I have everything from switches to robotic arms to MRI machines to infusion pumps to virtual assets, and the influx of vulnerabilities came together with the explosion in assets and devices in general. So we were hearing more and more about attacks on critical environments, everything from, factories to utilities to airports that are the least protected, but with the biggest value to a lot of nation-state actors or other hackers.
And if I remember correctly, you went on and did this and definitely got Asaf Rappaport's blessing at the time, and he invested in Armis, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had it both ways. I mean, of course, we worked together in the army for many years, and then at Adallom, where I was the first employee, and I left Adallom the same day as when the acquisition closed. I left 40% of my retention to Microsoft and moved on. So, like after that process of speaking to as many customers as possible, which was some of my learnings as well. It doesn't matter what, you can have the best ideas, the best, the coolest tech, but nobody cares. The only thing matters is what the customer really needs, and anything else doesn't matter.
Well, congratulations on all fronts. But I think just sticking with the news and this incredible funding round that you just raised, you've talked openly about this being really in preparation for an IPO, TBD on exact timing. But how are you thinking about the timing piece of it, given what we're seeing in the markets today and some of the volatility around, concerns of an AI bubble? We've been talking about it a lot. I mean, is this something that is top of mind for you, or it's so kind of far out in the future that it's not a concern at the moment?
Yeah, basically, I mean, this round is a great statement for the momentum and that Armis is having, continue to grow super fast. We also continue to add more and more products. We have today 5 products that we go to market with, and launching another 2 in Q1. So we'll have 7 product form, and customers love to expand with us. We have 50% that are using 2 products and more, 25% 3 products and more. Customers love the Armis products because they want to consolidate. They want one platform to deliver as many use cases as possible. So really that momentum brought us to a place that around the company, a lot of funds wanted to invest. Goldman Sachs leading the round, and great support from existing investors, significant support from Capital G. We believe this is our pre-IPO round in terms of last funding, before going public. So like our next thing is to be at $1 billion in ARR in 3 years. During that period, we'll have an IPO, probably early 27. Like that's will be my best guess. If crazy environment in end of 26 and like rates go down and everything, maybe. But we are just not in a rush.
Yevgeny, I think you've been very vocal and very kind of on record on your personal journey and how you think it sort of dovetails with Israel. To our listeners, you were born, if I remember correctly, in Dnipropetrovsk, right, in Ukraine.
How was his pronunciation, by the way? Was that decent pronunciation?
Really good, really good.
And then you end up in the most Yemenite neighborhood of Israel, right, Sha'araim?
Yeah.
Can you try and tell the story of sort of, multiple companies that you built, either as an investor and obviously as an entrepreneur? How does that relate to your personal journey and what you see in Israel?
The way I look at this is like we in Israel, it's the best startup hub in the world, and we have the best talent here. I mean, the reality of, I think that environment that we live in, which is like the army, for example, and in general, like that we need to succeed in tough times. We have no choice but to win. I think it's Jews for many, many years and many centuries, right? And, you can take the particular example of, Soviet Jews, right? It was always very well known that, if you compete with the Russian or Ukrainian on the job, you need to be like 5 times better. You can't be 10% better, 20% better, because then he will get the job. And I think that we see it in so many places in Israel. You come to the army. I was in the Unit 8-1, and we were working on the craziest projects ever with like great achievements. I was like 19. We didn't have the budgets of the NSA, of the CIA, but we had no choice. Like, we had to win. If people are not like coming from a real need, but they become weaker.
So let me ask you this, because everything you're talking about and the innovative DNA, the cyber superiority, these are incredible storylines and have led to a lot of innovative products and to successes, of course. But there have not been a lot of cyber companies, period, and Israeli cyber companies that have gone all the way to an IPO. Even in Wiz's case, monster deal, amazing outcome, this $32 billion acquisition by Google, which is closing soon, I think. But they were on a path to an IPO that was not the ultimate outcome. So why have we not seen more cyber companies go all the way to becoming an independent, publicly traded company?
I think that in general, there hasn't been a lot that kind of got through that and built like a huge business, because a lot of acquisitions, a lot of consolidation in the market. Specifically, you get more and more entrepreneurs right now in Israel that are second-timers, third-timers, that are more hungry to doing something big that will not sell at the 200, 300, that usual magic number that, you don't need any revenue, and maybe Palo Alto will buy you. Maybe 1 customer or 10 customer, it doesn't matter. And you have more and more entrepreneurs that are hungry and want to build great things. A lot of them are talking to me, and that they want finally to build something with scale. And I think that it's changing. We're going to see more and more. It will take time. It's a journey that you can't get there right now. If even at the Sentinel days, right, when they went public, you could do the process when you are at 100, 150. Now you need to be at I would say 500, 600, 700 to go public. And not a lot of companies get there. If you're the only thing that you care about money at some point, you will say we'll have secondaries, you will have other opportunities, or somebody can buy you early, and that's it. But if you're hungry and you're there for, building something legendary.
Can you tell us a bit about what you're seeing? Because you have, quite a track record in terms of changes to the talent. With AI taking a certain turn, with defense tech now becoming, better funded at the early stages. Are you seeing sort of headwinds to Armis in terms of talent retention, talent acquisition, or are you now the big animal that you have the magnet that is strong enough to keep, drawing those type of people?
Yeah, so talent is one of the most important things. And we have the best talent in the world in Israel, I believe. That's one. And second, we must preserve that startup mentality. And which is very important, because you can have super, super smart people. If they're not super motivated and working like crazy, you won't get a lot. The best people are the hardest working, not the best talent, the most talented. People can be very talented and can get tired after 6 months or a year, and that's it. And I've seen people like that, super, super, super talented, but not hungry. I think that we are at a place that we have great reputation. We also have, I think the tenders that we did from a liquidity perspective were very important, allowing people to sell 20% of their vested shares. Great outcome, but keeps you still hungry, and that you work hard at Armis, you stay for a long time, and you get paid. And you don't need to wait for the exit day. And that's something that those special rounds were significant in retaining the talent. And also, we still need to be very tough on ourselves on how we are reviewing performance. Definitely right now with AI, like it's a force multiple. I don't think that definitely in cyber, AI is not, won't be there instead of employees. But I think that the R&D teams can be 10x more effective. AI agent won't start creating ideas for architecture. I mean, for Armis, but we can make like every person like 10x better, 10x more efficient, 10x faster, deliver more, deliver faster. We have a new product that was really built a lot like AI accelerated it when we built it, in 4 months instead of 4 years that companies built it.
AI is really changing the threat landscape, though, right? I mean, can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing out there? And there was this report from Anthropic just recently that claimed that there was a Chinese-sponsored attack that basically was automated using its AI tool. So are you seeing a lot of that? Are we going to be seeing what's out there now that's vastly different from just a few years ago because of these tools?
So we are seeing more and more, especially we see it in terms of scale. Today that, an attacker with a simple tool can just, attack 1,000 IPs instead of 10 IPs. You don't need an army of analysts or army of or many hackers. On the other hand, on the defensive side, I mean, the environment better than the attacker. And if you leverage that, with the right tools, you should be in a very good shape from that perspective. But of course, again, this is like the usual cat and mouse. In my opinion, every time there is a new revolution, cyber is involved. Always. And always it opens a new attack surface. It expands the attack surface specifically. That's why really the basics is really to understand what is my attack surface. Let's map my environment. People call us the Google Maps of their environment. First map every single asset with context, with everything. When you're aware of everything that you have, you can also go and protect much better, put the right controls in, really lower the risk in so many places when you do that. And that's why we became a foundation for so many organizations.
There was a topic that came up a number of times on the show with investors and some entrepreneurs that it's getting to a point that the risk-return equation on investing in cyber in Israel is so attractive that, it might concentrate the investments in the area very dramatically. And by that, sort of, creating a narrower, let's say, ecosystem. Is it a concern that you share, or is it from your perspective, as you just described, it's entropy, it's endless? I mean, even if we invest more in cyber, there will be more entrepreneurs and the market continues to grow. I think this relates also to your perspective from your vantage point for, let's say, the next 10 years in cyber as you see it?
The biggest problem in my perspective, and again, I think that there is a lot work to do in cyber. There are more and more companies that do very small things, trying to solve very tactical problems. There are not a lot of big ideas that I don't see very bold ones. And this is something I would like to see more happening. I think that I do see more and more in AI. And in Israel, I think in data, in big data, in cloud infrastructure, I see also good motion, defense tech, of course. So I do think I'm very bullish on the Israeli market. I think that we are in I said that in the past, I think that we are in the golden age of Israel. We are expanding. I think that there is a focus on cyber, yes, but you also, I think in life, should focus on where you are the best. Some people would tell me Israel is too much focused on high tech. Okay, but this is what we are good at. We won't go and be the best in manufacturing because we are not the best in manufacturing. We are the best in tech. So that's why when you look inside the tech, we need to be in the areas where we have the biggest advantage over the world. I think that it's good to focus more on cyber. I think that but need to focus on big ideas.
Yevgeny, last question for you. We touched on the fact that you do angel investing and that you invested in Asaf Rappaport's company. Asaf Rappaport from Wiz invested in yours when you went off to start Armis. There is so much of this happening in the Israeli cyber ecosystem, kind of investing in each other's companies, especially given all of the activity recently. How does it work? Because you guys also compete with each other in some areas. So just explain it to us. What is going on?
I think that it's support and trust and also giving the real MBA, the startup MBA, that's actually you learn only when you live it and make those mistakes and go through really, really tough times and go through amazing times, stay humble. I think for us, it's much more like sharing, with people, the knowledge, sharing, some key advices that can happen, like that. It's at some point for me was like, from Asaf and from, Michael Shaulov was like amazing. And then I'm giving those advices to many other people, and then it goes on and on.
Okay, so it's paying it forward, not just in dollars, basically, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
There's,
it's not the business.
Yevgeny was talking about the fact that Goldman led the round. One of the things that I benefited a lot from in AI in healthcare was the fact that the leaders who came before Health.io did big things with the big American banks and created a reputation for the banks that you can do big businesses with Israelis. That is very unique because, for Goldman, they would love to do business in Europe. But the fact that they've done rounds with other companies and now they're doing it with Yevgeny, and when X, Y, or Z will come down the line, we'll talk to Yevgeny. They will ask Yevgeny to refer to Goldman. This web of connections is not just to pay it forward of what mistakes not to do. It's conferring reputation, conferring credibility. And people like to do business with those who've done good business with them prior. Then the Israeli ecosystem is super mature from that perspective.
I think it's paving the way, every achievement, a lot of people open doors to other people and show new goal, new barrier, right? Everybody's competitive, but also helping each other. I think that also having a great partner, this is super, super critical. And, without Nadir, nothing would happen. And it's been 10 years, amazing years that we are together and building great things. And it's been a great journey there. And also my wife, who is a great investor, on the other hand. So it's the partnerships that you create in life that moving a lot of things and moving business in general forward.
Well, Yevgeny, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and we're going to continue to watch the company and hopefully get to talk again as you guys get closer and closer to that big milestone.
Thanks for everything, Yevgeny.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Well, we began our show with the numbers of the week, and we are going to end with the words of the week. And a few lines here from a really interesting piece by Seth Siegel in the Wall Street Journal. We've been reading about the water, the kind of the growing water crisis in Iran. And this piece was super interesting in laying out Israel's role in Iran's water supply, water innovation, and systems in the past versus today. So I'm going to read here just a couple of lines from Seth's piece. In a not too subtle call for an Iranian popular uprising, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in August offered a return of Israeli water engineers to help Iran out of its coming catastrophe, but with a condition: the end of a hostile Iranian regime and a new one committed to friendly relations. What might Iran have achieved in water and otherwise had it used the billions that it has squandered on harmful water infrastructure, regional mayhem, and pursuit of nuclear weapons to serve the Iranian people instead?
Yeah, I think he captured the title super well, right? Hatred of Israel caused Iran's water crisis. This is actually one of those cases, unlike Hamas, where a nation state has to face the consequences, right? There is no international aid. There is no UNRWA. There is no UN. I mean, the choices the Iranian regime made in terms of where to invest their money, and still continues to, buy squadrons of airplanes from China now. The propaganda levels are again high temperature. At the end of the day, and this is also a cautionary tale for Israel itself, because we were very close to Iran's fate. This happened when I was working for President Peres. We had Professor Uri Shani, who came and alerted Prime Minister Olmert and said, hey, that's our future. Look at Egypt, look at Syria. It's not going to end well there. It's not going to end well for Iran as well. And if we want to escape that, we have to desalinate water at scale. And so at the same week where Iran's biggest reservoir goes dry, and by the way, exposing, I think, 70 bodies that were thrown in there of regime opposers, right? Israel started pouring desalinated water into the Sea of Galilee. in the first time in history, in an attempt to kind of revamp the lake and open the dam to allow for the Jordan River to kind of breathe again and hopefully fill up the Dead Sea via the way of nature. So one road, took the bitter pill, invested, hiked the price of water, brought in technology, and is in a way now taken for granted by everybody here in Israel that you just open the faucet and you have water in this part of the world. And the cautionary tale in Iran is on the other side. And all I have to say is, as an Iranian Jew myself, it's a shame. This is a great people held hostage by really a horrible regime.
We're going to hopefully get more in depth on the water story and also some of the backstory, the history here of Iran and Israel pre-revolution in an upcoming episode. But I think the other takeaway here for me, and this kind of harkens back to the conversation we just had with Yevgeny, is as much as we talk about the importance of diversification for Israeli companies, for the Israeli economy, I do think something Yevgeny said about sort of playing to Israel's strength is really critical here. And whether it's water and desalination or it's cybersecurity, these are areas that Israel has had to excel at. It's really been, in both cases, a life or death situation. And those are the strengths. And, we should embrace them, and hopefully other countries do too in the future. So that is it for today's show. Thank you for tuning into ARC Media's What's Your Number? We hope you found it interesting. If you did, please be sure to like, subscribe, rate, review. You know the drill. But most importantly, please share it with others who you think will find it interesting. And if you want to make suggestions or share your feedback, please reach out to us at whatsyournumber@arcmedia.org.
Our show is produced by Adam James Levina Rady. Sound and video is edited by Martin Huergo. Our theme music is by Midnight Generation. I'm Yonatan Adiri.
And I'm Michal Avram. See you back here next week.
See you next week.
This podcast offers general business and economic information and is not a comprehensive summary for investment decisions. It does not recommend or solicit any investment strategy or security.